At row 5, Joe Gibbs Racing teammates both competing for a championship, Kyle Busch and Carl Edwards.
I want to chat with one of the 4 championship 4, and let's tune up the 19 of Carl Edwards.
Hey Carl, Jeff Burton, NBC booth, you with us?
Hey, I've got you, Jeff.
Well, Carl, a few years ago we saw you and Tony Stewart battle it out for a championship. You came up a little bit short. Tell us about your emotions trying to get that first championship.
Man, I woke up this morning ready to go. I actually drove over to the track early. I'm just so excited for the opportunity. I can't thank everybody enough for putting me here. We got a great crew, got a great car, all the Eris folks, Dave Rogers, a bunch of folks from Missouri, Cessna flew them here, so really going to be a fun race.
Well, you have 3 people you're competing against that are all very good. What is it going to take to come out on top?
I think you're going to have to win the race. I mean, these guys are the best, and it's it's been just a real a lot of fun to hang out with them this week. I know everybody's pumped, though. It's going to be serious competition, and if we can beat them, there's going to be a lot of pride in that.
Well, Carl, on behalf of all the fans, thank you so much for taking time. We know it's a stressful time for you, and we appreciate it. Have a good day.
All right, thanks a lot, man.
Kelly?
5 years ago today, Carl Edwards came here to Miami to clinch a championship. He won the pole. He led the most laps. He did everything right, except he finished runner-up in that race and lost in a tiebreaker to champion Tony Stewart. Carl told me it was the hardest thing to lose that way, but that a championship today will mean just that much more given the defeat back in 2011, Dave Burns.
We'll be keeping our eye on the championship 4 like Carl Edwards in the 19. And as he tries to move forward, currently in the 9th spot, just behind him, Kyle Busch. Joey Logano is 11th.
And the other thing the top of the racetrack has is more danger. While they're only 2 lanes up right now, when they get 3 and 4 lanes up, inches from that outside wall, Rick, that's where the speed is, but that's where the danger is. Contact with that wall, damage your car, slow it down, take away your chance of winning.
Yeah, you say inches. We have seen cars all weekend long get into that wall, but it doesn't do enough damage that it slows the cars down. It just scratches the wall, and we've seen them scrape the wall a few times. Some will hit a little harder than others, but we will see cars rub up against that wall all afternoon long.
Yeah, nobody's against the wall yet. Now you see Martin Truex in that 78 car. He's halfway up the racetrack. That's nowhere like they're going to be. They're going to eventually be right against it. The other car on the move is Carl Edwards. Carl Edwards has looked really good going around Denny Hamlin right now. So Carl Edwards started 10th, and he's right now in 3rd place.
Those 2 are teammates, Denny Hamlin and Carl Edwards, both racing for Joe Gibbs Racing. And currently Carl Edwards has taken the advantage away from Denny Hamlin. Kelly.
And Carl has been able to work his way up through that field, mostly working the low line. I talked to his crew chief, Dave Rogers, who told me we don't want to put it up against the fence right away, and we think we have a car good enough to run that lower line. He said it's an awful lot to ask a driver to run up against that fence for 400 miles, and this is a treacherous track. If you get too close, they call it wall glue. It's kind of a term they stole from the 78 team. They said it'll just kind of suck you right up. But right now, Carl Edwards said his car started out a little bit tight in the center. His biggest concern now is that he's just a little bit too free through turns 3 and 4.
2 by 2 once again. Kevin Harvick has chosen the outside line. This time he has to contend with Carl Edwards on the inside. Fan out as they go into turn number 1. We saw the 18 go to the outside of the 4. Kevin Harvick blocked, and that opened the door on the inside. Here comes Carl Edwards.
Oh, that's going to get tight. Kevin Harvick tried to get to the bottom of the racetrack. Carl Edwards was there. You saw when Kevin pulled down, it made him really loose. Carl took the air off his rear spoiler.
Utilizing the move, he got all the way up to the back bumper of the 4. No contact was made, but that loosened up the 4, and now Carl Edwards fighting for the lead down the backstretch.
Like Kevin Harvick's answering the question. Everyone wondered how the other 36 cars would race this championship 4. Kevin Harvick's proven he's going to race them just as hard as he always would, trying to get the win.
What a strong move by Carl Edwards on the bottom of the racetrack. He cleared Kevin Harvick by a solid 2 car lengths. That was impressive.
Carl Edwards leads all drivers in laps led here at Homestead.
Steve, we saw in practice yesterday, I think everybody was afraid of this 19 car. He looked like he had the fastest car on short runs. on long runs. I think he forced the hand of his competitors to have to make changes coming into today's race.
It was the talk of the garage, without a doubt. The 48, though, also, people a little bit of buzz about the 48. He's recovered nicely up to the 8th position. So currently all 4 of the championship 4 inside the top 10.
Edwards out front, but for how long? Here comes Harvick. Dives to the bottom of the track, trying to take that top spot away. As strong a move as we saw out of Carl Edwards, Kevin Harvick has returned the favor back out front here at Homestead.
I like this. And Kevin Harvick, you know the Bull tweet, he sent it at the start of the chase. This is how he's going to race through the chase. It doesn't matter that he's eliminated. He's still here to win a race for his team, his sponsors. You see right here, though, trying to lead this race, 19 of Carl Edwards right on that left rear bumper. Looked like the Ford's a little unstable. Drives to his inside, completes the pass.
Yeah, right here. With
no
the
contact.
19, the 19 that close to the Ford just pulls the air right off the spoiler, and that's why you saw the 4-car loose.
Once again, Harvick dives to the bottom of the racetrack. Carl Edwards keeping the momentum up, running a little bit higher around this track. Progressive banking, 18 degrees, right up against the white line down at the bottom of the track and the apron, all the way up to 20 degrees of banking up against the wall.
Yeah, remember, this is the first time that Kevin Harvick and his team have come here since he joined Stewart-Haas Racing, not contending for a championship. The first year in this format, they've been eliminated, so they have a point to prove.
Let's listen into the 19 radio.
Faster, show a lot of space. You can run your tires off anyway. Yeah, no problem. I'm just playing around.
I'm just playing around at 185 miles an hour. And he sounded calm on the radio, too. That's another thing that we've been listening to, all these championship 4 drivers. How are they handling the pressure?
Listen, Carl Edwards, to me, has been exceptionally relaxed through this whole time. Even pre-race, he was standing by his car, shaking hands, laughing, having a good time. He seems to be enjoying this opportunity. And he just seems so right. Even when we interviewed him before the race, he's like, just laughing, having a good time. I really have liked his approach.
Well, all the way back to Texas. Since the moment we spoke to Carl Edwards in Victory Lane at Texas, when he knew he was going to be in the championship for Miami, it seemed like there was a pressure lifted. Where everyone else talks about the pressure being on, he was relishing in the opportunity to get back to this stage to win a championship as he works inside the 4-car once again, Rick.
Tried that inside line through 1 and 2 down the backstretch. He's right up to the left rear quarter panel. He goes down to the bottom of the racetrack again. Kevin Harvick up a little bit higher.
I mean, think about Carl Edwards. In 2011, came to Miami with a chance to win the championship, race against Tony Stewart, who's retiring today. They tied in the points. It had to go to a tiebreaker. It wasn't this format. It was a point system format. Had to go to a tiebreaker. The closest points battle we've ever seen that has to eat away at a driver and a competitor to come that close to a championship.
You mentioned the fact that Carl Edwards said been a runner-up. It's happened 2 times. Presented by Sprint. Sprint's network reliability now within 1% of Verizon. Switch today, save 50% on most current Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile rates. Visit a Sprint store or sprint.com/network today. 2 runner-ups for Carl Edwards back in 2008 and most recently 2011, where he tied Tony Stewart in points, but the tiebreaker went to the most wins, and that was Tony Stewart. Marty.
Well, guys, as if Kevin Harvick needed a little more motivation. He had an interesting quote this week when he said, sometimes losing makes you better. He said, not being in this championship 4 is certainly motivation to us. That's what I love about competition. In terms of how the car is handling, he said it was a little too tight on that run. They decided not to make a change on that lap 28 pit stop. Now Harvick said the car way too tight, taking off that time, just not where he wants it, Kelly.
You talk about the strength of Carl Edwards' car. Well, remember, he won at Texas just 2 weeks ago on a very similar worn-out racetrack using the exact same Goodyear compound tires. His crew chief, Dave Rogers, told me that had him feeling very confident, as well as the test they took part in ahead of the Talladega race. They were the only one of the Championship 4 to participate in that test. He said although they shared their notes with their entire team, including the 18 of Kyle Busch, he said that just being there, seeing the look on his driver's face, taking his own personal notes, may have given him a little bit of an advantage here today. Rick?
Kevin Harvick out front, 38 laps. He has led the championship 4, all inside the top 6. Still up front, it's Kevin Harvick. And a great battle for the lead continues between Harvick and Carl Edwards.
Well, look where the championship 4 are running. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Somebody didn't let Kevin Harvick know there's a championship battle here. He's leading the race. But Jimmy Johnson started last on the field, has worked his way up in the 5th position. That puts all 4 championship contenders inside the top 5.
Kelly.
Well, we just heard about Tony Stewart's collection of helmets. Well, how about this? Carl Edwards, last week at Phoenix, gave Tony Stewart as a retirement gift the helmet that he wore back in 2011 when they had that unbelievable battle for the championship right here at Miami. Tony Stewart saying it shows just how thoughtful it is, and Carl Edwards has admitted that fire suits and helmets have special significance to him, but he felt like it was the right thing to do to hand that one over to Tony.
That's one of the things that Carl Edwards does. He doesn't keep any of the trophies. He gives the trophies away. Normally it's to kids that he's met, maybe people that are suffering from something or another. But Carl Edwards has been very generous as far as the trophies. He always gives those away, but that's the first helmet that I've heard he's
You have to ask a little self-motivation. Maybe that was the most important helmet he had, and he thought, you know what, I'm going to give this away because I know next week, this Sunday at Miami, this helmet I'm wearing today could be more important. Maybe this will be the one I win my first championship in.
Mike. Welcome back to the Ford EcoBoost 400. Homestead-Miami Speedway still out front. Kevin Harvick. The championship 4 is Edwards, Logano, Kyle Busch, and Jimmy Johnson. A beautiful sunny afternoon. And our aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. On the left side of your screen, you'll see the championship 4 as they run and the order that they are in on this championship Sunday. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th right now, all running together toward the front of the field, and Kevin Harvick continues to lead. Carl Edwards leading the championship 4, but in the back of the championship 4, running 5th, is Jimmy Johnson. Mike. Harvick held him a little bit longer in the restart zone, and now it might cost him as Joey Logano is going to take the lead at the bottom of the racetrack and go right by the 4.
That was really impressive by Logano. I thought Harvick did a nice job of kind of slowing him up and then accelerating. He actually got the initial jump on him, but somehow Logano was able to overcome that and actually beat him into turn 1.
And this is the first time under green flag that we've seen a different leader out of this championship 4, Joey Logano, in front of Carl Edwards.
First lap led by Joey Logano. And Carl Edwards giving chase. So now it's Logano who's leading the championship 4 for that title. Logano and Edwards, the 2 drivers looking for their first ever championship.
You said it, Steve. Carl Edwards has been looking at the back of Kevin Harvick. He's not been looking at the back of another guy trying to win the championship. So a different mindset now. Does this push their patience?
Terrific restart by Joey Logano, and it's funny, Todd Gordon and Joey had a conversation this morning, and Todd told Joey, I think it's going to come down to a late race restart. I want you to concentrate all day long on your restarts and make sure that they're perfect. Jeff, it's something you do as a driver. You kind of make a book as you go out throughout the day, and that's what Joey does on every restart, how the other guys restarted, what they did, what they tried to do, and maybe they tried to snooker him a little bit as well. So Joey making a book as he goes along about restarts that could be key late in the race.
Marty, I think that's a really interesting point because on the initial start of the race, we saw Joey Logano pick up a spot immediately. He was 3 wide getting into turn 1. We've seen his pit crew perform on pit road, picking up spots. So restarts and pit road, Joey Logano and his team have done a great job. See right there, Kevin accelerates and gets moving, but right here, Joey Logano kind of turns left and just makes a shorter way to turn 1. Right here, the 4 accelerates. He's outrunning the 22. The 22 gets through the gears well. I think maybe the 4 had a little trouble, like maybe had a little problem getting in the gear because the 22 just pulled ahead of him getting into turn 1.
It's now the 22 and the 19 out in front of the 4, and then Kyle Busch and Jimmy Johnson in the 18 and 48 behind Kevin Harvick. And once again, the top 4 or the top 5 have 4 of the championship 4 in it. The best of the best racing for a championship, all inside the top 5, led by Joey Logano. Carl Edwards currently running in the 2nd spot. Kyle Busch is 4th, and Jimmy Johnson 5th. Mentioned at the top of the show, how will the other 36 drivers race against these championship four? We saw for the most part of this race, 90 laps complete now. Kevin Harvick has been fairly aggressive. He's wanted to run up front. He hasn't really given anyone any spots on the racetrack. He's raced everyone hard for every position, and right now Kevin Harvick just in front of Kyle Busch. Dave?
Kelly?
Carl Edwards has had a car that's been a little bit too tight. They continue to make chassis adjustments to the left rear of the car as well as 4 Goodyears, Dave.
Wedge adjustment as well as that left front suspension adjustment for Kyle Busch. 4 Goodyear tires, Sunoco fuel, Marty.
Joey Logano said his car is tight in the center now, which is what they wanted to get it to. He said, I can also move further down the racetrack as the sun is setting. I think the track coming to us 12-0 on that stop, Rick.
Some quick stops there. Larson, Edwards, Harvick, Logano holding their position. Keselowski gains 1. Truex Jr. gains 2 spots on pit road. Kyle Busch, Jimmy Johnson, they've both been chasing after the 19 of Carl Edwards. He's on the other side of the spectrum. He hasn't made some big changes. This is what they had to say on the radio.
You having fun, Dave? I'm having a blast, man. You having fun? Yes. Really cool race on the 4 and the 42 there. That's a good time. I love this place.
Once again, that voice, calm, sounds like he's having fun. They come back into the restart zone. Green flag back in the air. Kyle Larson's been running that hot line all day. And he shoots out in front of the 19 as they go down the backstretch. Now the 19 has the 22 of Logano on his outside, trying to take second away. Great battle for second. Logano's going to take it away from Carl Edwards.
Logano's done a really good job on all these restarts. We talked about early in the race how they put an emphasis on that. Just like last week, though, at Phoenix, it doesn't seem like his car is as good on the long run, so he needs to take advantage of these short runs.
Rick, lap 197 on the board right now, 70 to go, and here's the debate. We told you at the top of the show, as you see the battle for second with Carl Edwards and Joey Logano, that the key word for the day would be short pitting. They've done that here on the 22 car. They've been very aggressive with it. If they keep with their math, lap 208 is when they will come. That's 10 laps from now. But Steve, at some point, you're running up front here, the 22 car with Joey Logano and Todd Gordon. Do you continue down that road, or do you back off of that strategy now with only a couple of stops left in the game?
Well, if that's their strategy and they're going to continue with it, I think the most important thing is they get past that lap 208 number. That's the last fuel window. You cannot pit and force yourself to pit in extra time. So make sure you can make it all the way to the end of the race. So I would expect them to pit probably with 59 or 58 to go.
Great battle continuing. You'll see it all as we go NASCAR nonstop. Welcome back. You have not missed a moment of this battle between the 19 and the 22. Here's what the 19 had to say on the radio.
Next time he's going to have a flat side. I don't say anything there? The next time 22's going to have a flat side. Get you in the back.
A little bit of frustration now, or maybe the anxiety is ramping up as there are only 62 laps to go in this race, in this championship run.
I think that's what it's all about. This championship means so much, and it doesn't take a whole lot to push you from excited to anxious. And you're racing the guy that you might have to beat for the championship, and you heard that in Carl Edwards' voice.
So again, Carl Edwards is running second in the race, but right now leading.
If he runs out my door like that next time, I'm just going to run right into him.
There you have it.
I'm with you.
So again, you're hearing Carl Edwards aggressive as caution comes out again. Pressure goes on to the pit crews now as the team's entering pit road. Mike.
Rick, the big swing that Chad Canals took at the 48 on the last stop appeared to pay off. Jimmy Johnson saying the car was much more competitive that time around. Still, lots of work to do. Wedge adjustments on both sides of that car, along with a 4-tire change. Kelly?
Carl Edwards said he was just a little bit free that time. They put half a round of wedge back in the left rear 4 tires, Dave.
Kyle Busch took off tight, but got a little bit loose at the end. There will be a 4-tire change air pressure adjustment. Marty?
Joe Logano was about to come to pit road under green when that caution came out. Very well timed for them. He said, I need a little drive off. It gets freer the longer I go. An air pressure adjustment to tighten up that race car.
All 4 of the championship contenders within 0.8 of a second of each other as we go NASCAR nonstop, waiting for the restart. Not a great pit stop for the 19 as we look at the pit road comparison.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like much, but a second on pit road is at least 2 positions, and now Carl Edwards will line up in the 3rd row on the bottom with Jimmy Johnson to his outside.
Yeah, they had 2 problems on pit road. Great shot overhead. Watch the right rear. Takes him a little while, get the tire off. His tire's slow coming off. They get the right rear on. You can see the right rear is slow around the left side of the car, but now watch the left front.
Yeah, so there was a few tenths of a second beat over there. Well, now the front should be ahead, but see, slow taking the left front off. That's what happens. When you have a little issue on the right and a little issue on the left, they add up to over a second.
And the problems have added up for this 19 on pit road tonight. They just, to me, aren't doing everything that needs to get done. As we start to wind down, you're going to have clean pit stops.
1.1 seconds on pit road doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is spots on the racetrack. Let's see how it affects Carl Edwards. Here comes the 48, looking at the outside of the 19. That's for position. Not able to keep the momentum up.
And you have to wonder now, Chad Knaus, that 48 made a big adjustment. It looked like he removed some front packer, got the splitter lower to the ground, and now he just doesn't seem to be able to keep up on new tires. But we're only a few laps into this run. If it goes all 60 laps, that might be just what the 48 needed.
And this is the first time all day long that Kyle Busch has led these 4 championship contended drivers. Still 53 to go.
And for more on Kyle's teammate, Carl Edwards, let's go to Kelly.
Well, Rick, even though that 12.5-second pit stop cost them a few spots on the track, this team's not too concerned.
Plenty of time here. 58 to go. 58. Yes, I'm not worried. Get to do some of that driving stuff now. Yep.
And now it's 50 to go, and everyone should be good on fuel.
Fuel shouldn't be an issue, but we have seen virtually everyone short pit or come way before they need fuel. We've seen them come as early as about 35 laps on a run. With 49 to go, can you chance that and potentially come early, or do you now have to stretch it all the way till the checkers?
Well, I think these teams are forced to stretch all the way until they either get a yellow or a checkered flag. The real question is what happens after lap 40? Whose car has the best handling? And we've still yet to see the championship 4 run right against the wall like Kyle Larson does. If it goes over 40 laps, Jeff, I think they're going to have to move up there on those old tires.
Yeah, I think they will too. And you know, heard Carl Edwards, very optimistically saying, "Hey, I'm just going to do that driving stuff now." But the problem is, now he's behind more race cars, and the car drives completely different the more cars you get behind. So the adjustments that they made, expecting to come off pit road 2nd, 3rd, weren't the right adjustments when you come off pit road in 5th.
You have to throw in also the 4 and the 42. They are definitely fighting for the win in this race, but they're right in the middle of the championship battle that's going on. The 4 championship drivers running 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 6th.
Well, a decision has been made by Carl Edwards. Carl Edwards, they got themselves back with a poor pit stop. They're now 2 seconds behind Kyle Busch. And as he's run Joey Logano down, he's moved his line. He's moved his line up the racetrack to get to Joey Logano. Now he's got to try to find his way around him. So he's been right against the wall. When he called Joey, he wasn't against the wall as much, but it has worked to get to him.
That time he entered a little bit lower into the turn, but then moved all the way up to the wall.
So right here, he's going to try to get underneath him. He got that big run on corner exit, running to the top. Now he's going to try to slide up in front of Joey Logano. I think he'll be able to pull that off easily. Let's see where he goes now. He's cleared Joey Logano. What's he going to do when he enters turn 1? Is he going to keep working that top, or is he going to go back to the bottom?
And Rick, we still have 35 to go. This is only 20 laps on the tires, and we have mentioned a few times, the longest they've run is 40. So they're going to be way past that if this thing runs all the way to the finish under green.
Do you wear less tire when you run up against the wall?
I think potentially you do, yes. Depends on how your car is handling, but Carl Edwards is running down Kyle Busch at a big rate of difference. I mean, Kyle Busch ran a 33.70. Carl Edwards ran a 33.38. So he's coming.
0.4 of a second better for the 19 as he continues to race against his teammate. Kyle Busch and Carl Edwards both racing for Joe Gibbs Racing. And the gap closing every lap.
If he didn't let himself get baited, the very smart reigning champion may have enough to hold off his teammate, Cal.
And after long last, we have now seen Carl Edwards finally move up to start racing that high line. The team telling him you still got plenty of time to go. When he got around the 22, they said, just one more to go. Carl, go reel him in.
Kelly, Joey Logano told me earlier this week, I love how we race under pressure. We had to win at Phoenix. We did it. In fact, they've won 2 of the 3 elimination races in this chase this year. Can they win the biggest elimination race of them all tonight? Right now, Logano said his car's a little bit too tight. And also, they slapped tape on the grill earlier. Now his water temperature's a little bit over what they would like that to be. Kevin Harvick having a fantastic race tonight. He told me so many reasons for us to want to win tonight. The last run was Chevrolet. It's Tony Stewart's last win, and he told me last time I checked, there's a trophy at stake tonight. We would love to get to victory lane, Mike.
Marty, Jimmy Johnson has never won at the Homestead-Miami Speedway, but then again, he's never had to. So I asked him what the reality is for him at this track, and he said, look, I actually like this track. I feel like we've had some pretty good runs here. Tonight, well, it's pretty good, but not good enough to this point. He's struggled with handling problems throughout the evening. Chad Knaus has done a lot. He told Jimmy to go to the top of the racetrack. That's where he is now.
As the laps continue to wind down, Jimmy Johnson running 6th. In front of him, Logano in the 4th position. The gap closing between the 19 and the 18. And we've seen this before. And these drivers know exactly what the other will do in this situation, especially if it's for a race win. It was earlier this year at Richmond when Kyle Busch in the 18 was leading and the 19 of Carl Edwards was battling for the lead. He decided late in the race he would put the bumper to him, moved his teammate out of the way, and went on to win the race. After the race and before this championship, both have said, I know how the other one will race me. We saw that at Richmond. Now they are nose to tail for a championship. Kyle Busch is in front, Carl Edwards is behind.
There wasn't much said about that until last week. You know, right before this race, Kyle Busch brought it up. No one asked him about it. He just brought it up and said, hey, I remember what happened in Richmond, and if I'm behind Carl Edwards, I know what I can do because Carl did it to me. So right now it's reversed. You know, Carl Edwards has first got to get by Kyle Busch. See Carl right against that wall.
Well, you mentioned earlier in the race how Carl was leaving those last few feet to the wall. Now's the time to use every bit of real estate. If there's an advantage to run higher, he needs to do it. The risk is if it pulls you into the wall, you could damage it and give up a bunch of time. But with 28 to go, this is where the 19 actually looks to be better than the 18. As they go through traffic and they get to the bottom of the racetrack, the 19 really closes in.
But I think Kyle Busch, if he can figure out where Carl wants to run, then Kyle Busch needs to go there. He needs to take Carl Edwards' line away from him, take that air off of his car. Right now, I think Kyle running the high line is kind of helping Carl Edwards.
This could be the battle for the championship. The gap is closed now. Kyle Busch just in front of Carl Edwards. Once again, Carl Edwards goes a little bit lower. Kyle Busch stays up high. He'll try to keep the momentum up. Try to stay in front of that 19.
Kyle Busch, he's got a difficult spot right here. It's obvious Carl Edwards is a little bit faster. What do? Do you try to take his line away, or do you run where your car is the fastest?
And again, closing in on that territory of we haven't gone this far on tires in this race.
This is an opportunity right here. You're going to see Carl Edwards hang a left, get into the corner to try to pull alongside.
Take a look at this. The 19, Carl Edwards, looking to the inside, trying to take away the second spot.
Inside is there. On your tight.
Down to the bottom of the racetrack. Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch, side by side as they go outside. Down the backstretch they go. Carl Edwards into turn 3. He has the advantage. He takes second away from Kyle Busch. Carl Edwards once again leading the championship 4.
4 more times right here. Nice and smooth. Let's drive away.
24 laps to go. Kyle Busch, does he look to the inside and try to take the spot back? That lower line working for the 18 now as well. Not able to clear him. for the title. Kyle Busch battling back on the inside. Carl Edwards keeps the momentum up on the high side.
You can see the advantage Carl Edwards gets running that top line. It just makes the back straightaway, the front straightaway, makes the speed so much higher.
Remember, Kyle Larson is in front. He's winning this race right now. He's leading the field. He has a 3.5-second advantage over these two. But these two could care less who's in front of them. They know that this is the battle for the championship. Carl Edwards right now in front of Kyle Busch. Carl Edwards looking for his first ever Sprint Cup Series championship. He knows what he has to do. He has to stay in front of the other three competitors.
See Casey Mears going by both of them. He just did it 5 or 6 laps ago, so he has newer tires.
Now the question is, can Carl Edwards stay conservative? Can he stay a line off the wall? Can he take care of the right side of his car? We're getting to that point. 33 laps on this set of tires, 22 to go. We've seen him run 40. We haven't seen them run past that. As the tires wear, is Carl Edwards using his stuff up? Is Kyle Busch saving some tire right here, or does he just not have enough car to keep up?
How hard does he push it? That's a big question right now for Carl Edwards. He's out in front, and now he's put a big gap between himself and Kyle Busch. Those two were racing side by side hard. But now with Carl Edwards, a big gap, does he save a little bit of his equipment in case there is a late run by Kyle Busch?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. The 19 of Carl Edwards really races like this is for the race win. He manages about a 1-second gap back to the 18. A safe margin. Jeff gives him a little bit room for error, but doesn't push those Goodyear tires any harder than he needs to.
Two teammates racing for a title. Out in front right now, it's Carl Edwards. Kyle Busch running in the 3rd position, but just behind Carl Edwards for the championship. We've seen what these teammates will do to win a race. What will they do for a championship? If Kyle Busch is able to get back to his bumper, he made a comment earlier. He said, if I can stay with him, if I can get to his back bumper. When he was talking with Dan Patrick earlier this week, he said, if I can get to his bumper, I know how I'll race him.
And in an effort to get back to his bumper, you've seen him change his line. Now he's running up on the high side. We saw him down at the white line, the corner before. He's searching, trying to find a place to make his car drive better.
And Jimmy Johnson, the 48, back in the 6th position with 19 to go, trying everything possible to try to gain on these front two. You see right here, still fighting that loose condition. A big slide by the 48. I think the 48 of Jimmy Johnson needs to be thinking a caution. They must have a caution. Come in, make adjustments, maybe gain some positions on pit road.
Laps winding down. Under 19 to go. The 19 out front.
Thing is, though, Rick, it's only 0.6 of a second between these two. Lap traffic, we saw this yesterday in the Xfinity race. Lap traffic somehow doesn't know which line they want to be in. They can block Carl Edwards. They can get in his way. This is the line Carl Edwards wants to be in, but as he goes to lap cars, how much time will that cost him?
Joe Gibbs Racing looking to win the Xfinity Series yesterday, as well as try to capture the Sprint Cup title tonight.
Carl Edwards' calmness in that situation, bad pit stop, lost spots. He was just very calm on the restart, climbing his way back up. Never sensed, really, the way he was driving the car. He didn't get too aggressive. He moved around, found the best place for his car, and just methodically found his way back in front of all the guys he's racing for a championship.
So gap between the two about 0.6 of a second.
But staying there, Rick. How is it staying there? Is Carl Edwards keeping it there by driving out of his mirror, managing the gap, or is it Kyle Busch? Did he make a couple mistakes, lose a position, but now just running hard enough to keep him in sight? 17 laps is a long time for these race car drivers.
And if a caution comes out, everyone will dive to pit road because tires are so important at this racetrack. But if a caution doesn't come out, is he conserving some of his tires? Is Kyle Busch thinking, I've got one more run at this?
We could be, because this right here is lap 40. We've talked about it. This lap right here will be the longest that either of these competitors have run on a set of tires today. So these last 15 laps are going to be uncharted territory. How much more does your car fall off? What kind of balance change do you have?
Carl Edwards, the advantage between the two as far as wins. He has won twice at this racetrack. Kyle Busch won here a year ago to win the championship. The caution will come out. A restart.
You see a flat left rear tire on the 32.
Kyle Larson, race leader, leads him onto pit road. Mike.
Jimmy Johnson telling Chad Knaus he can't rotate the center, needs more drive off. The call has been for 4 tires and more wedge adjustment. We've seen a lot of that from the 48 throughout the course of the day. This is the money stuff for the 48, giving him an opportunity. Kelly.
And the 19 of Carl Edwards said he was a little bit tight to start, but that could have been the dirty air, so I don't see any adjustments, just 4 tires, a little bit of fuel.
You guys made the point. Gas man Tom Lampy went to the front of the car to carry a tire, now grabs the fuel, puts a little bit in. We had a slip in the back at the 18. Jake Seminara is back up, but he puts the tire on, Marty.
Joey Logano's guys have gained him 4 spots this evening. It looks like they will gain him 1 more here this afternoon. Up to 3rd right there for Logano. It said it took off better. Car was a little bit too tight. They took some tape off and made an air pressure adjustment, Rick.
So now as they line up, Kyle Larson picked the outside. That put Carl Edwards on the inside. The guy that's done the best job all night long on restarts is Joey Logano, starting right behind Carl Edwards. Can Joey Logano lay back a little bit, get a run, get alongside the 19 as they enter turn 1?
Yeah, and the 48, 6-time champion Jimmy Johnson, the car just hasn't agreed with him. Chad Knaus, you heard him before the pit stop. What do we need? Big adjustments on the 48 and to his outside. The 18 of Kyle Busch, a poor pit stop, but now he lines up in the outside. No one's better rolling the top than the 18 of Kyle Busch.
And you can bet Kyle Busch will try to make that happen. He's unbelievably good on that outside on restarts.
10 to go. They come into the restart zone. Kyle Larson, the outside. Carl Edwards on the inside. Green flag back in the air. They're blocking. Good go down low. Carl Edwards into the wall. He got tagged by the 22. Big hits by the 19. And the caution comes back out again.
That is exactly what we saw Joey Logano was going to try to do. Big fire of the 78. But that is what we thought was going to happen. Obviously, the wreck isn't what we thought.
Huge contact for the 19 of Carl Edwards. First it was the inside wall, then he was hit by another car.
A championship's on the line, Rick. The 22 gets a great restart, the 19 blocks. They make contact. Look at the damage on the 19 car. A couple huge impacts.
And we thought that's what was going to happen. The 22, Joey Logano, has been so good on restarts all night. The 22 gets a big run. Carl sees him coming. He goes to block. 22 does not slow up, stays in the throttle. Big wreck.
And the 22 really ended up getting a lot better out of that situation, because it looked as though Brad Keselowski laid completely off of him, the 22's teammate.
Well, he wanted nothing to do with it. He didn't want anything to do with the accident or the championship battle. But you see the 48's blocking the 2 to the bottom.
And listen, if you're a Carl Edwards fan, you're upset at Joey Logano. If you're a Joey Logano fan, you're upset at Carl Edwards. That right there is Joey Logano being aggressive, making a very, very aggressive move, but he got a good restart. Carl Edwards had no choice but to block. If he doesn't turn left, Joey Logano's next to him entering turn 1. He's in the middle of 3 wide. Worst possible scenario for Carl. Carl turns left, trying to block a championship on the line. Joey's there in a big wreck, and I don't blame Carl Edwards.
Not at all.
He had to block. That's what he had to try to do.
But I don't blame Joey Logano, because if he lifts with 10 to go, it's over. He's lost the championship right there. He didn't hit the 19 in the bumper. He was inside the left rear bumper cover of the 19 of Carl Edwards. You see, he's walking it off. It's just the frustration. It's the size of the moment. A championship on the line. We knew restarts were going to be crazy. This one was completely out of control. But what a car that Carl Edwards had tonight. That's got to make the disappointment worth. Remember, 5 years ago, he tied here. He came back trying to win a championship.
It's mandatory that when a driver gets out of the car in the race that they go to the infield care center. Normally, they're taken there by the ambulance, but I believe the communication between the track worker, the safety worker, and Carl was, I'll walk over there. I'm going to walk there.
And remember, the 19 car led 47 laps tonight. That was the best of the 4 cars that were contending for the championship. So now that's why they're disappointed. That's why he was so dejected.
But Carl Edwards was trying to block. He did not want to give up that position on the restart.
No, he didn't want to give it up. He didn't want to give a championship up. He was put in a position because of Joey Logano's very good restart. Joey did everything right. Carl Edwards doesn't block. He's 3 wide, in the middle, getting into turn 1. His opportunity to win a championship is definitely less in that scenario. So, an aggressive move by Logano, but in my eyes, he did everything he was supposed to do, trying to win a race and win a championship.
I mean, this is what's on the line. 4 drivers, an entire season, a championship. Neither Joey Logano nor Carl Edwards have ever won a championship.
Really, Jimmy Johnson and Kyle Busch of the two championship contenders remaining out on the track. Actually, Joey Logano's still out there, but will have a little bit of damage to the car. But those two benefit the most from this because they were able to get through.
What a big impact.
Huge.
To be honest, I've been focused so much on that restart, I didn't realize the degree of that impact.
Let's ride along with Joey Logano.
So you hear Joey Logano. He's to the inside. It gets to a point where the 19's pulled out. He's out of the gas. He's not in the gas turning the 19. He's out of the gas because he's so low. On board here with the 19. I mean, that in real time.
Look at Carl Edwards. Look at Carl Edwards. Listen, he's smiling. He goes up. He's having a conversation with everything on a line.
He shook their hands.
Listen, I don't blame him for being frustrated or being upset because it's a championship, but taking time to go to them and have a conversation, I mean, that would have been difficult for me to do.
And Jeff, let me tell you, I mean, and you can speak to this more than anyone, but how difficult is it to get into this position as a driver, to get into the possibility of winning a championship? It doesn't happen very often. Carl Edwards, this might be his last chance to ever win a title, and that happened on the restart to take it away.
Well, remember how close he came. He and Tony Stewart, the closest finish in NASCAR history as far as points. That's how close he came to winning his championship, and he's been waiting since that moment to have another opportunity. And with only 10 laps to go to win a championship, to end up in this situation, he has to be unbelievably disappointed.
Marty.
Walking along with Carl Edwards, and he has to go to medical first and be cleared, guys, just as you know. So he's going to go do that first. But he walked up to apologize to Todd Gordon, said it was 100% my fault. And in fact, he told Todd Gordon, he said, tell Joey, go get it, go win this thing. So that's what he told Todd Gordon when he went up there, shook everybody's hand on top of that pit box, said, my fault, 100%. I'm sorry that I came across his nose like that. So what a class move by Carl Edwards. And we saw that after the 2011 championship. First guy to Tony Stewart's window, Carl Edwards. Tonight, a big wreck here. First guy up to apologize, Carl Edwards.
Well, Rick, if I'm a crew member on the 19 team, if I'm Dave Rogers, Carl Edwards, crew chief, I'm completely okay with this. Those are the moves you have to do. No one wanted it to end like this, but if he allows the 22 to get to his left with 10 to go, stuck in the middle 3 wide, he knows he's ran these restarts all night long. He was not going to be in the right position. He was going to lose the lead. We talked about what would teammates do to one another to try to win a championship? Well, what as a driver are they willing to do to win a championship? Carl Edwards just proved they're willing to do about anything to try to protect the position.
Steve, it's racing.
That's it.
Racing is going to be aggressive. And then when you add a championship on the line, guess what? It's going to become more aggressive. Joey Logano, great restart. Carl Edwards had no choice but to try to block.
And it looked like Carl Edwards said to the fire and rescue gentleman that's walking with him, hey, thanks for walking with me on this. Normally it's a ride. It was a wild ride for the 19. After an incredible race, it ends 10 laps too soon. Involved in this accident on 258, Keselowski, Casey Kane, Regan Smith, of course the two chase contenders, Carl Edwards and Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Ryan Newman, Martin Truex Jr., and Ty Dillon, all involved on the restart. A lot of cleanup needs to be done, Carl Edwards, and I believe, Kelly, you're now with Carl.
Yeah, Carl, after walking all the way back to the infield care center, Carl, it sounded like you accepted responsibility for that. Take me through the restart.
Yeah, I think it was shared. You know, I mean, I feel like it was just racing. Haven't seen a real close-up view, but the way I had it figured is, first of all, that was a race of my life up to that point. That was a lot of fun, and Joey was so good on the short run. I don't know how he got that restart. It was a really good restart. I thought everything was going to work out, and Jason told me he was looking low, and he told me basically he was there. I knew what Jason was saying, and I just pushed the issue as far as I could because I figured that was the race there. And so, yeah, here, let me watch it again. Yeah, Joey just timed it perfectly. He moved down. I thought I could feel him a little, and I just thought that that's probably a little optimistic, but I thought I'd clear him or force him to lift. I just thought I'd have just a little more time. But he drove down as far as a guy could be expected to drive down. and that's how it ended. I don't know what the caution was for. I really hope it was something that that we needed to have a caution for. That was going really well.
Carl, we saw you walk over to the 22 pit box, shake their hands. It sounded like maybe there was an apology. Why was it important for you to go over to that team?
Yeah, no apology. I just wanted to say, hey, that's just racing, and good luck to you guys. There's so much on the line. I want to make sure that, I don't want anything extra to mess with Joey. He's done a good job, and they deserve to go have a good, fair race. I hope Kyle gets it. I just can't thank everybody enough, all of my fans, Eris, Toyota, Subway, everybody that came down here to support me. Comcast, Sport Clips, a little ashamed of my haircut. I need one, and I thought we had it. That was frustrating.
5 years ago, you know what happened. You lost the championship here. You called it the ride of your life. How will you reflect on this race?
It was so much fun to drive up through those guys. This track is just, it's perfect. It's such a blast to drive. The Goodyear tires are great. I'm sliding around doing everything, having a really good time, and running Kyle down and racing him like that, and for him to race me that hard and that fair was so cool. I just hated to see that caution. That was very, very frustrating. I felt like that was our race and our championship, but hey, this is how racing goes.
Yeah, but it was under that caution that your pit crew really stepped up to the plate.
Yeah, they put it in my hands, and that's all you can ask for. Dave Rogers, my guys, everybody, they did a good job, and it didn't work out. This is life. We performed well. We did our best, and I just risked too much. And Dave told me before this race, it's a pretty big reward, and remember, risk gets reward. And I had to push it. I couldn't go to bed tonight and think that I gave him that lane. So I watched the rest of the race, and I am telling you, this team is going to be on fire next year. You watch out. It's going to be awesome.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you.
Steve, I think that's it. He could not sleep. Not only the rest of tonight, but all of next year, knowing that he gave that lane. And he said it. Joey Logano get a unbelievable restart as he's done all night, and Carl Edwards had to block. And what a stand-up guy to sit there and look at it, and with this much on the line, and say, hey, look, it was shared, but certainly was optimistic to think I could keep him behind me.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, you have to make a decision to do something that's outside of the ordinary, and that's what Carl Edwards decided right there. He went down. Heck, they were in the yellow paint. They were off the racing surface. There's a curb down there for the road course. I'm not sure they were going to make it over the curb if they did get it figured out. But a classy interview. An entire season got him to this point, and one restart basically cost himself a chance at a championship.